Greetings, dear friends. In this session, we will implement a blocker of similar games. Let's go to our editor and of course start the compiler. We take it as a sample. One of the ready-made blocks. We already made a block for the main page, future products. This one, we can use it as a sample. We will have a dynamic block and that's exactly what it is. We do Ctrl-C, Ctrl-V. Create a duplicate of it and name it. Similar products. Next, the metadata. We edit. By fields. This is a dynamic block, but despite that, we will have additional fields in the admin panel. I suggest 12 posts. By default, we have a slider in, the active, position with 6, but by default, there will be 12. So here, we leave the count parameter and add 12. Next, we will have a title. We can have one field with a strong tag, and on the strong tag, we will attach a style, or we can make two fields, title 1, title 2. Usually I make one field. The word that needs to be highlighted, I add it to the text. Therefore, we leave one title, and for the link, we will probably add two fields. For the anchor and the link itself, in this description, we will convert it into a link. And one more field. We will add as link anchor. Next, we will also need a script. So we will load a file for the script here. This is comma. We remove, okay. Everything from here. And for the block, we go to edit. And for the text fields, Ali control is probably no longer needed. We remove it, load our new fields link and link encore here. Let's see. And for the components, a component for the account, a component for the title, a component for the link. And one component for the anchor. Well, of course, this will already be text control. And the same component for the anchor. So wonderful to render. We will block similar rows. What else do we have on the admin side? It seems everything. Remove the styles. Site C is empty and styled. For now, we'll leave the block, register this block. Create a callback for it. And go to our admin panel. In the admin panel, we need to go to the editor. Since this is a global block, it is not tied to a post, but to the type of pages, to all posts of this post type, and go to single product into this template. We will add this block to the last position before the footer. Search for this block by key, similar products. Add it, and consequently it renders for us. Next, regarding the data, let's immediately insert this data The title, similar games. But I will enclose the word similar in strong text. Although, by the way, it doesn't have to be strong. ACP. In this case, semantically, it won't be attached to it, some kind of priority or something. Should we show it via a link? Simply, although we can set/shop page, and it will redirect to the store archive page, and anchor copy from here. Save the block. Go to the page. Refresh. Here it is. We see our block. Next, we implement the body for it. As a basis for the body, let's take one of the previous blocks. We already have the request ready there. And the entire HTML body doesn't need to be written. We had a block, this feature product block, so we copy its body. Essentially, we just need to change the request to not take the feature, but to take a similar product by category or tag. Let's think about it now. Okay, but I'll insert it here. I copied it along with the function, I believe with the function name. Yes, I wasn't careful here, but it's not a big deal. Let's delete it and pay attention. Closing. I don't think I copied the closing. Let's check the website just in case. If there's no fatal error, then everything is okay. Yes, everything is okay. There are no styles right now because we have different slugs and it can't match them. We can adjust this slug. Let's go. Not into the void, but into the style. And we'll make this main selector similar. And it will already inherit all the properties. And our layout will be better. They won't be so stretched. Yes, it's already better. Therefore, we are now getting these products. But let's make it so that it really takes similar ones and not all. Because right now it's just taking the future. For this, we will implement the following action. First of all, we need a global post object here. In this post object, we can check whether we are on the product page and what the post type is there. Therefore, when we have this global object, we perform a check. If it exists, and if it is not a singular product, in other words, if we don't have an object and we are not on a single product, we exit this block, meaning we will not continue further. And by the way, in the previous lesson, when we were checking this object, but it seems, yes, usually in programming, it's not advisable to enclose such large chunks. Usually, I do it this way. I perform a check, but on negation. That is, if we don't have the game object, then I return. Essentially, I exit the function, and otherwise my code will work perfectly. I just need to close it. This closing element. So keep in mind, when we add some checks, like at the end of the previous lesson, when we were checking this object, you can use this method to simplify it further. In general, you can simplify it like this. But for beginner developers, it's a bit difficult to read and understand. And then we open the body for the construct, and it becomes clearer. That's why I sometimes do it both ways. But overall, I recommend simplifying it to this form. Okay, let's return to our code. Essentially, we created an exit condition in case we are not where we expect to be. The second point, we need the ID of the current page if it's a product. Therefore, we will create a variable product ID. And we will take the post ID from it, from this object by the shoulder ID. Then we ourselves, we can already construct the product object, having the ID data. using the function that we have already used, getProduct. So here we have a typo to correct. Since we already have the product object in this variable, we can additionally check if it exists, just like we did in the previous block. So we will run another if construct, and with a negation on the product variable, we will perform a check and consequently return. That is exit from. Let's probably use it like this everywhere to maintain one style. Otherwise, it's already incorrect when we abbreviate in one place and not in another. We try to stick to one style. It doesn't matter at all how, with brackets or without, but it's preferable to adhere to the new style. And in this case, we exit again if we don't have the product object. And we won't show the block at all. Next, to show similar items, we need to link them by some key. This could be, for example, a category. It could be a genre. It could be a language. It depends. On your logic, I think it's definitely not worth linking by language. Maybe by platform. That is, this request can be strengthened or made more trivial. I suggest we make it similar by genres now, because we have few products. If I include by genre, then I will be able to see something in my slider. Otherwise, if I complicate the request, for example, by setting both genre and platform, I will have one or maybe two products. I won't even be able to make a slider, but I will show you how to strengthen this query. Let's go back here. We need to take genres using the VP getCast2C function. Product ID, that is, we pass the ID of the current game. Next, taxonomies. In our case, taxonomies are genres. And we take certain fields. Let's take the ID. Fields. In this way, now, in the genres, I have the current genre, terms of the current game where I will open this block. Below, when I form my object, let's rename it from featured to similar. We still try to maintain the logic. Next, let's go down below and edit similar, and we remove from the query. Featured, we no longer need featured here. We will now take by taxonomies, but in addition to this, we will extract the current ID. So I will pass exclude. That is, the current post should not be shown in this slider. And I pass the current ID. So AI suggests a category, but this is not a category. The category that AI suggested to us, it relates because we use it like this. Let's go to the product, look at all our taxonomies. What do we have? So this is for this category, but we didn't use it. We didn't even add anything. Here, we created our own separate setup for genres. These are our taxonomies because here we are not by category, but by such a query. We will create everything. Now, the query by taxonomies accepts an array in this array. We pass another array to our query, and here it is already better. So taxonomies, I pass the genre, fields, I pass the term ID. Term ID not just going, and the terms themselves. I pass the genres with the default operator, and it can be removed from here. And now, my query will return only similar ones. Let's test this. I am now here. Like we have... something is not working for us. Let's check what isn't working for us. So first of all, this block created an error for us, which I didn't notice right away. There's no return here. So this definitely needs to be added, and that's why things went wrong for us. Layout. Next, we go back down. This layout is going somewhere. Let's figure out why and where. All right, let's remove it from here. Why did everything shift for us? It's clear here that it can't load because we have exit conditions. I'm removing it. I want to see why the block itself shifted. The whole page shifted completely. This empty product isn't needed, some kind of god, but I opened it from scratch. Everything is in place. Let me add a block now. Maybe there's some glitch in the browser. This happens often. Adding similar. The rhythm returns emptiness. So here I don't see anything. And here I see one block. And it still gives 2 errors. So pi oven, 2 errors, and if I over 2 keys key in description. But obviously they are not being transmitted yet. Not that they are not transmitted to us. But the title is not transmitted and the description simply does not exist. But we will get to this body now. Returning to our request, we haven't finished it yet. This is in the case when I am attaching to one genre I am editing. The body itself, but there are cases if I want to do it by 2 taxonomies or maybe also by a meta box. Now I will demonstrate to you if we have 2 taxonomies and need to do an additional check. The second taxonomy we have is platforms. We will obtain them in the same way. So we use autocomplete, but now for the platforms taxonomy. And in the query, we only take the wildcards, meaning we don't take all the data as we don't need extra load. That's why I specify wildcards, because here I am specifically verifying we don't need other data. And since I already have a composite taxonomy, I will put it in a separate variable and call it tax varim. And by default, it will only have the relation condition, and I will set this relation condition to either or because if it's a very small sample, or either about that similar or they're similar, that's why we specifically pass or. And if we have these genres, then I will add it to this taxonomy. And the same goes for platforms. So if we have autofill is great, we just edit. We will replenish the text clarity in case there are genres. We supplement it with data from these taxonomies. Our genre, fields, temp IDs, and IDs for verification are passed through the genre. The same structure applies to platforms. Now, artificial intelligence already understands me and fills everything in. We have implemented this. And then we move on to our query. And now we argue about this, and we don't pass it to him. An array, like with code, so to speak, and we pass this variable like square, which we have just composed. And in this variable, there will be the same arrays, simply because there are already 2 of these arrays. An additional parameter, such as relation, is added so that WordPress understands how to combine these. Either an exact match or an or. And in this case, we will already have the next result. You see, it's already more because the platform conditions are in effect, and we set the platforms. Let's check this moment because I don't remember us setting platforms for all the games. Let's do it differently. Let's change the conditions to I. meaning a more specific condition. And that's way too much. He displayed the games for me. Well, yes, you see, when it's end, it shows few products. Now we will move to the products and simulate to ensure that our request works correctly. So I have this one open, I believe. Let me open it like this to make sure. And I'll close this one. Yes. And I, for example, want this one and this one. But this one will also open in the admin panel to view its data. So, action. And all platforms. I'll put this one in action. And one platform, action, and saved one platform. Save the remove here. Only action and one platform. And now logically we should have two boxes here. Here they are, that is this one and this one. So from the images, it's clear that our query works perfectly, but in this particular case, it will be very niche specific, meaning under condition M. But when we set conditions or if one platform is present for this product, and if it is present for all, then it will also be under budget. Therefore, probably we will still use and, meaning the logic is completely different, not as realistic. Yeah, all right, we figured this out. We leave and we figured out how to add additional conditions to our query. Let's move down. Further down in the layout, we will display the title. We remove the description. We no longer have it. Next, we can handle this. Shift it a little bit like this. We'll probably fill in this title in the editor. Since I deleted the block and lost the data, and here it might be worth removing the render and simply replacing it with a placeholder. Or leave it as is and not pay attention to the admin panel. Especially with the introduction of Gutenberg. We, the developers, have to do the work twice because we need to take care of both the front end and the admin part, which is not very convenient. A lot of time is spent on this. All right, there are no more PHP errors. Now the title is loading and the data is loading. Next, we need to display a button. I suggest we display this button. Let's think about how we have it implemented here. So, essentially, we will have one additional section at the top, and it will contain a button and navigation for the slider. Then we will show this here. A div with a class. Similar to closing. Next on the left we show the title, and on the right so on the right we will have a link and navigation. We have here an HTML link variable being displayed. This is how we will build this variable now. We can build it right at the top. It is not tied to the post, it is specifically tied to the attribute somewhere here. First of all, we create an empty one, or we might not create it. We can immediately perform a check. If from the guys, it's wonderful, there is a link, then we generate this link. Add some cool feature, and besides that, we also display here anchor. And here is the link that leads to the store. Next. We need to make a slider. For the slider, we need to slightly change the body. We have a certain container called game list. In it is the game result and each link. As far as I can see here is a placeholder. Yes. So it turns out that our link is actually a div. One element in the slider. Let's add additional containers. Swiper, a wrapper, and a closing div. And this link, div with a class. Swiper slide, but we'll have to fix the style. And here we close this div. Let's see what we have with the star. So, very well, we haven't really gone off track. And where is this class? I just added it, didn't I? Game result is ours. I made a mistake, guys. We need to go one step higher. So I wrote this wrapper inside the loop. I didn't even look up to check. So we move the wrapper outside the loop and from here. Consequently, we also move this closing tag outside the loop. And what we closed on A, we remove the element entirely. We also remove this slider slide and place it. We already have a container on game result. I should have checked twice. This happens when you have to comment on the work itself. And of course right here, we'll add then gap, we'll figure it out. Okay, next step, I will now add navigation. For navigation, I'll go up and do it right here. This is a separate flexible container class. Similar navigation. In it, similar left, one div and one div. Similar right and closing. Please hold on. Wait, the process is currently opening in progress. Closing. Open, open, closed, opened, closed, closed. Yes, now everything is okay. And a comma at the end. Here are our two elements to which we will now attach navigation. I will pause the video, and for all products, I will set up both the SE and action so that they load on this page, and we can continue with the slider. So I added more products. Now we can initialize the slides. Let's move on. Let's take it from somewhere we already wrote the slider. I think in this game line we have a slider there. Let's take that code. And open our view script. But we don't have a view. We will create it. View script. Let's put it in here. So it seems initially I wrote the loading for it. Yes, here's the view script. The loading is there. The block where we attach the slider is this one, but we have the game list in other places. Therefore, let's add to it, not the games list, but similar. Otherwise, if I connect the slider to this, then where the feature is, it will also initialize the slider there. We load the slider slide. First, let's make it 6. So this is an integer, so we pass it without quotes like this. And basically all other properties. It seems we don't need to set them for now. So that's good. It seems to be working. Let's set some styles. So we go into all with our and selector for the slider. Autoplay definitely needs to be disabled here from here. We set it to false. We had it enabled for another block. There they rotate constantly. Here everything is only with manual switching. Next we need to try adding a tag. So let's try using this property space between. I think we have 16 pixels. Next we need to make the navigation. So let's navigation. Pass the following blocks. For us it's similar left and similar right. Let's take a look now. Okay, but it's already better. The gap doesn't work, but I always have a problem with this gap. Whenever I set it, there's some issue. That's why I usually don't handle these gaps this way. I implement them using paddings. So let's find the containers and do the following. So margin left, minus pixels. Margin right, minus 8 pixels. And inside our swiper slide, we'll have paddings of 8 pixels on the edges. I usually do something similar to this trick. And here, I get the margin just right. The one I need, and here we also get exactly what we need. Wonderful. Moving on to the buttons. Let's enable them. And about the buttons, look, here's the thing. Even if we have just 3 boxes, our buttons will still show. But it's probably correct to hide them, not show them, if the slider is not filled with games. Therefore, these buttons shouldn't be shown either. I'm talking about these buttons. We will test them. I put some text if they are outside the container, and I don't remember if the slider understands them well. Yes, here it is. The first problem, I press on them and there is no reaction. But if I move them inside the container, over here, for example, no. The problem is not with that, in my opinion, they should not be inside the wrapper, but next to it. Therefore, I will move them outside the wrapper. And now, let's check. Still, my slider does not work. Let's look at it. Even though the initialization doesn't start, what do we have here? We have a problem in the scripts. Oh, where did this import come from? Why is it here and from where? Tasty intelligence. It seems this copilot has intruded on someone else's territory. So we removed it. Yes, no, it works. This speed doesn't suit us. We need it faster. We'll probably disable this loop. We don't necessarily need to rotate them in a circle. And since it's working now, let's try to move them back to where they were originally. I assume the problem wasn't in their placement. We need them right here in this container. I assume the problem was specifically in that. Yes, now it looks more suitable. Everything is working okay. Moving on, this little thing. Overall, I can show this echo when there are some games, and we can see that probably by using this variable similar game, it returns an array with all the game objects. And essentially, we can perform a check using the count function to see how many are in this similar game. And if there are more than 6 of them, and we have exactly 6 in a row, for example, there will be 7. Then it makes sense to show these buttons. If there are more than 6, we show this because and close it. So they are displayed because we have more than 6 and we remove this. Smoke. The text is not needed. Next, we need to style the remaining elements. Game list. Leave it as it is. Everything seems to display perfectly at a glance as it should. But it's convenient when we assign a single style to a specific element and just use it. But another issue is that the class name is not very appropriate. Game result. We should have taken care of this in advance, but it's not a big problem. Title. So in the title, the colored text, I have the text. And everything related to the colored text, I copy and paste into this text. As for the title itself, I don't set a color because I think is set on the global element. Let's check. Well, yes, now the centering of this title is better. It no longer shifts neither to the center nor anywhere else. Insert it. On the left, center it. Wonderful. Next, a block for the title and similar top buttons. We add it as a selector and style it. This will be display flex. Justify content space between align, items, center. Between it and the block with the slider, a gap of 24 pixels, so we can set this gap as margin bottom. So let's continue watching. There are extra margins here. It is worth fixing. Margin 0. Let's just reset it on the header. Right container. We will also have flex. Gap. It will have 8 pixels. Line, item, center. Next, the link. has the following styles. For such cases, we created another variable, black contrast. And let's check right away while we are on dark if it mirrors, as it was with contrast. What I like here, and here secondary main, let's choose another variable. I observe something that I don't want to observe, so they should be dark. In the dark version, on the contrary, a light button. So, let's try. Let's try white contrast. And since we need white contrast, we need to set it as the background. White contrast. Let's remove this hood here. It seems, now, it makes sense. So here it's white, and the text is black, and here on the contrary, black and the text is white. And we'll style the navigation too. Bring the flex display here too. Let's add, inside we have two of them. Let's style the fireplace. Wait, we've already styled these icons. Why struggle? We styled them in single. Game, then I'll copy them from there. Here are these properties. The only thing is they are usually positioned, not absolutely. But everything else is inherited in the pseudo element before. Yes. And more. Ever element. For a specific one with a specific class. Similar. If always an element before. Another year. Let's take a look. So I made a mistake with the class. Not hello, but next then. So stop no. I didn't make a mistake. I just won't prove it here. Yes. Why? Because let's try to go beyond the limits then. Here, but just referring to similar prep. And let's see if I'm writing this class correctly, but It's not pleasant for me. And left here it is in what similar. Probably right is needed here. Now over the years I don't know what pictures. Well guessed. Therefore, we got something of this kind, 64. The button clearly doesn't have a height of 64. This can be additionally corrected. And the box icing was made so much worse. So let's look here. Maybe there's no need for 64. It actually has 1660. I did this extra, so I'll remove it. I didn't need to do anything here. Everything was fine. And so, as in the layout, it seems everything that was necessary to implement for the blog. We implemented it here. Let's see why we have such an unattractive look. I mean, a very large indentation. Because the blocks are in one container and no longer overlap each other. These margins, but at the bottom it's fine, so we'll just reset the top marker. We won't set it, or we'll set it to 0. And that's it. We have implemented this option and we finished the lesson. See you in the next lesson.